Hi, my name is BJ Pataria. I'm the owner of Motion Physical Therapy. We are located in the Central Valley in California, and we have 3 clinics and we have 12 providers. We've been using Spry as our EMR since March of 2024, and in that time, we've experienced about 75 to 80% growth. So I really started to look into our operational workflows as we started to grow and we started to get a lot more referrals. It became a bigger and bigger burden for our front office to try to schedule these evaluations while following the rules for each provider, the rules at each clinic, so which specialty each provider had. So it started to spiral out of control. And that's when I reached out to Spry to see if we could come up with a solution that might help us automate a lot of this stuff. So we match the right patient with the right provider who specifically treats that type of specialty. So we started looking into how can we automate a lot of these things so our front office doesn't have to spend 10, 15 minutes on the phone trying to figure out the patient schedule and the provider schedule, finding a way that this would all be done automatically, and then we can give the patient the ability to select what day and time works best for them. So the real problem with our evaluation scheduling was that we were booking out several weeks, 3 to 4 weeks out front, and that upset the patients, which stressed out our front office people. We would have cancellations in between those couple of weeks, but it was really hard for our receptionists to know what was going on at all clinics in order to serve up those available appointment slots to our new patients. So it just became very stressful to stay on top of scheduling evaluations. The other problem is whenever we did get a patient on the phone to schedule their evaluation, it would take about 10 to 15 minutes, especially when you're dealing with someone, the elderly. Every time off slot that we offered them, they had a story as to why it wouldn't work, and they would go into full details of why that slot wouldn't work for them. So, you'd have to offer up about 4 to 5 different slots for them to finally pick one that works within their schedule. The other problem is we have a number of different providers now, and they all have different specialties. So each specialty might take a little bit longer than just plain orthopedic low back pain. So there's rules as to how much time that a certain type of evaluation would need to be for a certain provider. So there's rules like that our receptionists had to follow. So it became overwhelming for our front office to kind of manage 12 different providers with different specialties, with different rules for scheduling evaluations. So we wanted to kind of centralize all of that together to make it easy for our front office to follow. So what most evaluation scheduling software misses is that it needs to be customizable. So, there's different rules for each PT or whatever specialty you're in. So someone like me who's been doing this for several years, I can handle a evaluation in a 30-minute slot. Versus a new grad who might need 45-minute to a 60-minute slot until, they build up their confidence. There's also different rules, such as I can handle evaluations back to back. So my 10 o'clock and my 10:30 can both be evaluations. I'll be fine with it. Again, someone who doesn't have a lot of experience yet, maybe they're less than 3 years out of school, they might have difficulty with booking a back-to-back evaluation and getting their paperwork and everything done. There's also how many evaluations I'm willing to see in my AM shift versus my PM shift. So, how many evals am I comfortable with before lunch versus after lunch? And for me, who's been doing this for a while, it's a different number than a new grad who might be only able to handle one evaluation during their morning shift and one evaluation during their afternoon shift. So all these things need to be customizable, and the cookie cutter scheduling software doesn't allow you to do this. So we were looking for something that can handle all of the provider rules. Hey, we allow back-to-back evaluations. We allow this many evals in the morning, this many evals in the afternoon, and we needed a system that would follow these rules and be able to serve up anything that follows these rules to the patient, so the patient can make their selection on which evaluation date, time they want. So the big breakthrough for us was when I was on the Spry website looking at their product features that they were releasing, and I caught that they had an API integration with ZocDoc. Now, ZocDoc is a online platform that allows patients to book appointments with doctors, and they, work with a bunch of different doctors. So I realized, like, hey, there's a API integration with the Spry schedule with booking appointments. So I reached out to the Spry team, and they sent me over all the documentation of how the ZocDoc integration works. And we got to work on building a system that on one end allows us to create these rules for our providers on, how many patients how many evaluations they'll see in the AM versus the PM shift. And if they allow back-to-back evaluation, what specialties they are willing to see. So we build these rules for each provider, and we can filter these rules or filter a time slot against these rules and see what doesn't violate these rules. And that's an evaluation slot that we can then offer to the patient to select. And then on the other end, here was this API that allows the patient to book a time on our Spry schedule. So this was kind of how the two systems would meet and form into one. So everything was already built. Spry had the integration already there. We just needed to come up with a way to create the rules and the filtering on our end and then merge the systems together. So with the help of Spry and their API with ZocDoc, we were able to build out this product that now allows our front office to filter exactly what the patient is looking for. So we give the patient a call, ask them what today's times work best for them, if they need the morning, if they need the evening, if they need a specific time. And then we enter this in on our end, and it filters out open slots that don't violate any of the provider's rules. And then we serve these time slots up to the patient. And that's the end of our front office's role. The patient can then take their time to select whatever time works, hit select, and then automatically they get sent the Spry intake paperwork. It saved us so much time on the front office. We don't have to listen to why a slot doesn't work. The patient has full autonomy on picking which one of the 10 slots works best for them. And if none of them work, they can always give us a call back and we'll give them a new one. It's made a huge difference for our providers because now their rules are followed. If they require 45-minute rules, the system always finds that 45-minute slot in our Spry schedule. If they don't allow back-to-back evaluations, it won't serve up an evaluation slot right after another evaluation slot for that provider. So it's really cut down on the searching and finding a slot for the patient and really has sped everything up for our front office. So the system could be all digital with no human in the loop. However, we decided to keep our front office in the loop. So our front office does the actual phone call, gets the patient on the phone and asks them what days, times, what they're looking for as far as the appointment slot goes. We wanted to do this because we still want the patient to feel like they're dealing with a human. So that human interaction is still there. We just automated all the other aspects of the booking and gave the patient the ability to book the actual day and time themselves off of their phone. And I think that's very important, especially for older patients that might not be fully technology savvy. They understand how to use text. They understand how to, click something on a website. So we wanted to make it really simple for them and to still give them that human element that they're still talking to a person at this company. What this Spry integration has led to is our phone calls dropping to about 3 to 4 minutes to schedule an eval versus 10 to 15 minutes. It's also unlocked a lot of the digital intake stuff that Spry has built in. So as soon as the patient finishes selecting which appointment they want on their end, the Spry system emails them their digital intake forms for them to fill out. So the patient has completed everything before they even step into the clinic. Whereas before, with being on the phone and help and booking the appointment on our end, we would then have to scan their cards when they come into their appointment for their initial evaluation. So it's really made things a lot more efficient. It's really going to allow us to scale and grow a lot faster without having to rely on more receptionists or hire more front office people to help out with what's going on in the clinics. So this is a small example of an API and automation being built into an EMR like Spry. But if we zoom back and look at the big picture, this is huge. All of the previous EMRs that I've worked with were closed systems. They didn't allow integrations. They didn't want you to, have your own things on the side that would integrate with their system. Spry has been unique in allowing us this access to solve these problems that we have in the clinics and give us access to these APIs that allows our system to talk to their system. And in the future, this is going to be a big deal, especially in physical therapy, as we face stagnant or reduced reimbursements. We need to find ways to make our front office systems more efficient. Granted, we might not collect more per visit, but we can streamline how our system works and have less administrative costs and focus more on spending to hire more PTs and more providers and let automation handle a lot of these intakes and phone calls and all this types of stuff. So I think in the big picture, this is huge for a company like Spry to allow a small company like me to integrate with them to solve the problems that we face in the clinic on a daily basis.